Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rise and Lead Women's Leadership Perspectives. I am your host, ChèRee Wiley, founder and CEO of Diverse Perspectives Consulting and Writing Services, where we empower growth, transform lives, and reimagine success one client at a time. I am so glad that you decided to join me on today as we continue our series of leadership qualities that help to improve our leadership style. And so on last podcast, which was 2 weeks ago, we spent some time talking about confidence, and confidence most definitely is key in order for us to be strong leaders and to move leadership forward with our teams, with our companies, with everything that we do. And so this week, we're going to spend some time talking about commitment. And so commitment and confidence go hand in hand, because when you're confident in who you are, you stand on your commitments. But it's really important for us to really evaluate and take out the time to understand what our commitments are, because what we are committed to will determine the type of leader that we are. Our leadership style comes from our commitment, and our commitments are usually deeply personal. They're rooted in a place, whether it's a place of pain or a place of positivity or support. Our commitments come from somewhere, and we will spend some time really delving into that on today, because we again are on the journey to do the work in order to become better leaders. So one definition of commitment is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, ambition, goal, or dream. Sustained commitment is one of life's hardest challenges, but also the most rewarding. And when we talk about leadership and the goal of leadership, we are talking about getting to a place of sustained commitment. That commitment is what we build our foundation upon. What are you committed to? And so I like to do a little activity where I look at my core values, and I usually do this with teams that I work with, but also I participate as well because it's really, really important. And you will find that over time, as you develop as a leader, develop as a person, just the way you interact, that sometimes your core values will shift. And so in the activity, there are a list of values, and you start off with, identifying your top 10, and the list is extensive. And so you identify your top 10 and then narrow down to your top 5 and then your top 3. And a lot of times, it can be a little difficult. You might have that 3 and 4 that kind of go back and forth and are usually really closely aligned. But whatever those top 3 are, they really are the driving forces behind a lot of your decision making. And so for me personally, honesty and integrity are always somewhere in my top 3. And I can identify that the reason for that is because that is what I want people to give me. So I call it trauma or whatever you want to call it, but I have had a lot of experiences throughout my life, from childhood to adulthood, where people have lied to me intentionally, have known that they didn't intend to do things that they said they were going to do. And it left me in a place of frustration, because I never, even when I was younger, could understand why someone would lie when they didn't have to. Like, I would much rather you tell me, no, I'm not going to do whatever it is, than for you to make me think that you're going to do it and you have no intention of doing so. And so as a leader, and even when I was in the classroom, that was one thing that was very clear to me and to my students, is that I was going to do my very best to keep my word. And I would tell them that, like, if I'm not going to tell you something that I'm not going to do, if I tell you, that I'm going to make every effort to try to get this done, then that is exactly what I'm going to do and stand by that. And if you go and talk to students of the past, they will tell you I try my very best to keep my word. Now, were there times that I may have fallen short in some way because of certain circumstances? Absolutely, because I'm not perfect. However, I never intentionally have lied to anyone, because I know what that feels like. And so as a leader, I do my best to keep my word. If I tell someone on my team that I'm going to do something, or I'm going to check on something, or I'm going to, get back to them on something, I'm going to stand behind that and make it a priority. And a lot of times I will do it right in that moment, so I don't forget. I will go ahead and send that email so I don't forget, or make that call or send that text message, because it is very, very important to me that my word be something that people can count on. And it is very important to me that other people's word are something that I can count on. And so that is a huge part of who I am as a leader. And that is a huge part of my core values, but that's also something I'm committed to. I'm committed to creating spaces of honesty and authenticity where people can be themselves and I can be myself and we can communicate with each other appropriately. And if we have a disagreement, we go ahead and deal with it. We don't pretend like it's not happening or sweep it over or, I've got an issue with you for the next 6 months. That is not the type of team that I want. I want the type of team where we are consistently in an environment of honesty and integrity and where we are trying to understand each other and to support each other, not pull each other down. And so those are things that I am committed to. I go into spaces trying to create that. I'm big on building those relationships. I'm committed to creating spaces where people can show up as their authentic selves and flourish. I'm also committed to growth and development of my team. That is the reason why I do this podcast twice a month, because I want to see people move forward. I am committed to that. And even though I'm not in the classroom, I will forever be a teacher because my heart and my passion is for people to continue to develop in the gifts that they've been given, in the areas that they want to do better in. Leadership is a gift. As I talked about before, it's a calling. And so callings and gifts require maintenance. They require us to perfect our skills in those areas. And part of that way that happens is to continue to learn, to do better, and to become better in where you are. We all have space to grow. I have space to grow. I am a forever learner. I will always be ready and willing to learn something new because I know that is what keeps me successful. My brain, my ability to retain information, my ability to explain concepts and different things to help other people to grasp them is a gift, and I don't take it lightly. It's something that really is valuable to me, not because it gets me any kind of notoriety in any way, but because if I can help just one person, I feel like I've done what I was created to do. I was created to help other people. That's what leaders do. That's what teachers do. That's what any type of coach or consultant does. We are in the business of helping people. And that is why I do what I do each day. So that is at the core. That is my commitment. And so we get into a place in leadership where we have to be reflective. We really have to consider, what are we doing it for? What are we committed to? And some leaders are committed to the wrong thing. Some leaders are committed to themselves. And that can be extremely problematic because when you are only worried about yourself, your growth, your advancement, and how whatever it is, the bottom line affects you, you are not supporting and uplifting anyone around you. You are stepping on them. And so you have to get to a place where you are even aware of yourself in that. My commitment is very self-centered. I'm not committed to other people. At the core, I am for myself. And we've talked about this before too in previous podcasts, how that selfishness shows up and how it really drops the ball on leadership. If you are a selfish leader, you are not a good leader. If your every goal and every decision and every move is based off of how it will impact you or advance you in some way, your leadership is not good. And I don't have to know you to know that. And you, I'm sure, have met people and encountered people and had leaders who were self-centered. Their decisions, no matter what they say out of their mouths, and we'll continue a little bit later down the road, talk about the difference between what you say out of your mouth and what your actions do. But their actions don't match what they're saying. They say they care about people. They say they care about the team. They say they care about the clients or whomever that your company serves. But their actions don't show that they care about anyone other than themselves. They are in it for them. They wake up every day and they make the decision that they're going to do whatever it takes to get to their next level, even if that means stepping on you and holding you down and holding you back and keeping you from moving forward. And there's nothing that you can do about that leader, but you can make the decision not to be that leader. And if you are that leader, you can make the decision today to start making the necessary adjustments to move past that, because that is not the leader that we want to be. And I say we because I'm including myself. That is not the leader that I want to be. I want to be the type of leader that people want to be like, not the type of leader that people are like, oh my gosh, it's her. Why did she come to work today? I was hoping she was going to be on vacation or something. Oh, I hate being here because, she only cares about herself. And that is a really tough place to be in. And sometimes I wonder, and I've wondered this for years, what that person thinks on a consistent basis. And I'm sure that somewhere in their delusional mind, they feel like it's not that way, but the people who work under them understand that it most certainly is that way. And so sometimes it's even necessary for someone to give someone a little bit of realization. There may need to be a conversation that happens. And if you are an upper leader who is over someone who is in a leadership position but is subordinate to you, it may be worth you having that conversation because you identify that they are they're not leading to the best of their ability. And this is where, especially if you're in a position where you run a company, where you can bring in someone like myself who will consult with a leadership team and help leadership building skills with the team, not just with one person, because you can have one-on-one leadership conversations. And I do those with people. And then I also have coaching sessions with teams of people so that we can build the capacity of the entire team. And sometimes teamwork can help work out some of those things. And sometimes you receive things differently from your peers or from people who you feel like are really in it with you than from an outside voice or an outsider who is coming in and kind of giving their perspective of what they're seeing, what they're observing, which I think that I definitely believe there's value in that as well, because sometimes having an outside voice can bring a different perspective in, and people are a little bit more receptive than the people that they are interacting with every day. But sometimes when you have those leadership building activities that happen in those spaces that are curated specifically for your team, people start to get some realization that they didn't see before. It's a little different than someone coming to you and saying, you need to change this. Is different than, oh, I'm doing this activity, or I'm reviewing this scenario, and wait a minute, like I've done that before, but that's not really the way that should be handled. Now I can see the other person's perspective. There's so many different benefits to letting it play out that way. And so that's just another way that you might want to consider that team building really, really does help to hone in those commitments. And within your team, within your company, the commitment should be very clear. Whoever the head leader is, their commitment should be clear to the people in which they oversee in those spaces. You need to also have an understanding of what your team's commitments are, because that will really help you to find out if y'all are on the same page. If my commitment as a leader is about honesty and integrity, and your commitment is about, doing whatever we got to do to get the job done, even if it means we need to find some alignment, because those two things are not going to go together. This person thinks that by any means necessary, we need to get it done. And on my end, I'll be like, that means it's not necessary. Like lying and being dishonest is not the necessary means for us to get to where we need to go. And an example of where that might be the case might be if your company deals with like sales, right? So you may have a sales rep who's on your team, or someone who sells, whatever it is, your product or your service, who may use a little bit of deception or dishonesty to try to get clients over. They may make promises to them that, you know that you are not going to be able to deliver. They may, leave out certain aspects that may be vital to the decision making of the client without having full disclosure. If your commitment is that full disclosure, it has to happen every time, and then the client has the opportunity to either accept the terms or to decline them, and this person is is trying to work around that, that is going to be a problem, because that person represents you in that moment, even though you know that your commitments are not that. If the client finds out that they have been lied to or have been fooled in some way, and they come back to you as the leader and make a complaint, you have to own that, because that person was representing you in that moment. And so that is a perfect example of why having those conversations about what the commitments are of the team, as well as what your commitments are, and making sure that everyone is in alignment with what that is so, so vital to just the simple success of your company. And we have to keep the main thing the main thing. Those commitments are the driving force to how we lead and how we serve our clients, how we serve the people who are relying on us to get whatever the service is or to get the job done. We have to be sure that we are meeting that match. Another just example or explanation of commitment that I absolutely love, that I ran across this week, it says commitment is the stuff character is made of. It is the words that speak boldly of your intentions and the actions that speak louder than words. It is making time when there is none, coming through time after time after time, year after year after year. It transforms a promise into reality, and there's no such thing as never or can't. Commitment is the power to change the face of things, the daily triumph of integrity over skepticism. Oh my goodness. When I first saw that, I was like, this is like, my soul is speaking. This is absolutely what it's all about. And it is the power to change the face of things, commitment, because whatever we're committed to, it should be the driving force behind what we do and how we do it. And our commitments, when you're committed to something, you're not wishy-washy. It doesn't change with the wind, right? Because again, if it's deeply ingrained in who you are and how you show up and how you present and how you support people, then you will walk it out. Time after time after time, year after year after year, you will walk it out and live it as the promise of reality. So it becomes what we say, becomes what we do. We see it in action on a regular basis. I absolutely, positively love it. And it is everything that commitment is made of. And in that moment, that commitment, that level of commitment that, that this is speaking of, this one little, I guess it's supposed to be like a poem, is really about your authentic commitments. And so I mentioned before, sometimes we have people that say they're committed to things, but it is just talk. They don't actually mean it. They have taken some little phrase or some, level of commitments from some book or for some, some person that came and spoke or whatever the case may be. And they're like, oh, this sounds so great. Like, let's put this on a poster. Let's make this our mission statement. Let's let this lead the way. And they're not committed to it. And in some cases, they don't know what it means and how to put it into action. It is just words on a piece of paper or on a banner or on a website or whatever the case may be. But it is not what they're truly committed to. I have worked with many teams. I worked in school divisions. I worked in buildings where people say one thing and they do something else. And if we just use education as the perfect example, oh, we're committed to the kids. We're committed to their growth and development. We're committed to innovative ideas and doing what's best for their well-being. But then the decisions that we're making are not about the kids, are not about their growth and development, are not about their well-being. As a matter of fact, some of the systems that we're still following are outdated and damaging to the young people in which we serve. But you're saying that these are your commitments. Your actions are not matching up with your words. And as the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. You could say whatever you want, but what are you doing? Commitments equal action. If I'm committed to a thing, I'm going to walk it out. You want to see this. The commitment should be clear. And this is across the board. If I say as a leader, I'm committed to the growth and development of my team, then I'm going to invest in the growth and development of my team. I'm going to pay for my team to take a course. I'm going to pay for the webinar. I'm going to pay for somebody to come in and talk to them. I'm going to pay for the books. I'm going to pay for whatever needs to be paid for. We're going to have the book study. We're going to do it all, and we're going to follow through because I want my team to grow and to develop. If I'm saying that I'm all about team building and we're going to have all these team building activities and team building, this and that, then I'm going to invest in that. I'm going to schedule the retreat. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, because that is what is important to me. I'm going to take out time for my whole team. We're going to shut down for a day on a Friday and we're going to go somewhere and we're going to team build, because that is what I'm committed to. And that is, you're going to see that in action. And that is the worst thing that I think does happen a lot of times, is that you have people in positions of leadership who say they're committed to things that they're not really committed to. And you have companies that claim to be committed to things that they're not really committed to. And we are living in a different day and time where people are just not going to tolerate that anymore. 30 years ago, you had a workforce that if you didn't care about their well-being, if you weren't investing in, them to have team building opportunities or to go on retreats or whatever it is that you said that you were committed to, they just came and they did their work, because they that's what life was like. That's what they were raised to see, is that their parents went into the workforce, they worked, they didn't get any, fluff and frills and thrills, and nobody really ever asked them how they felt about anything, and they came home and they did it all again day after day. The generation that we are currently in they're not for that, because somewhere along the line they learned that their well-being mattered, and that they were needed in these spaces, and that they did not have to tolerate the mistreatment of their elders, ancestors, however you want to refer to them, the generation that went before. And so they are holding us as leaders accountable for the things that we say that we stand on. When people are now coming for interviews, they're asking questions. They want to know what your company is doing, what is the climate, what is, what are your commitments, and how are you standing behind those and supporting them? That is their decision making. And if the company seems toxic in any way, if they're having conversations with people and they're like, they don't do nothing for us, these people are saying no. And some of them are there for a period of time until they find something better, and then they jump the ship. Because it is a known fact, studies have shown, you can go and do research on your own, people don't leave companies for company's sake. People leave people. It is leadership that is destroying some of our companies, and we are not being mindful of that. If we have an employee, male or female, that is miserable and makes everybody around them miserable on a daily basis, causing and creating toxic environments in our place of employment, place of work, places that we are creating, right? Because if we are in those of us who are entrepreneurs, if we are leading the charge in our facilities or on our teams, we are responsible for nipping this stuff in the bud. And conversations need to be had. I never understood, except for, I kind of understand, but I don't understand. Because if you're in a position of leadership, why are you afraid to go to whomever has been here for the last 40 years, making people miserable, and explaining to them that that is not okay? And you don't have to fire them. Okay, if you're worried about, whatever consequences that or ruckus that they're going to make, you don't have to fire them. Move them to a position in which they are no longer able to make everybody miserable. I'm not leaving you in a place or a position of leadership where you are running a team in the ground, because I guarantee you a miserable, toxic leader is not giving you the productivity that you want or need to succeed in whatever area that they are overseeing. Because their team doesn't want to give top quality work when they're dealing with the foolery all day long. It's not okay. And so we need to address those things, because if we're committed to creating spaces where people can thrive and develop, where people are happy and want to be at work, where people are not stressed out and miserable all day long, 40 hours a week, then that starts with having hard conversations sometimes and addressing whatever this elephant is that's in the room. Ma'am, sir, what are we doing? Because if I know as a leader, I really don't want to talk to you because you are miserable for whatever reason. And don't get me wrong, I understand well. I have been preaching this for years, and I understand this from just dealing with not just dealing with young people, but also adults. I've been dealing with adults for probably close to 10 years now in leadership capacity and in the conversations that are having all these things, that all behavior has meaning. If sir or ma'am is miserable, there's a reason for that. If they are taking that out on whomever they are responsible for, there's a reason for that. And getting to the root of that is an entirely different conversation. But your responsibility is to the whole team, not just this one person. And I think that that's where we mess up, because we spend a lot of times as leaders in a lot of different spaces. This happens in education. This happens in corporate spaces. It happens in just leadership dynamics. We spend a lot of energy on the people that are miserable and are making everybody else miserable than we do nurturing the people that are ready to go and that are on board with what we're doing. And it's not fair to everyone else, because it is usually more people that are on board and ready to move forward than it is the one person who's miserable. And I would challenge each one of us, when we're thinking about our commitments and what we are committed to, is us making sure that we understand that we're committed to the majority of the people. That doesn't mean we're leaving the minority of the people out. That those one or two outliers that are want to go rogue, we still need to address them, and we'll have that conversation another day. But the main people, if you have 80 to 90% of your team is ready to move forward, and you're spending all this time on this 10% or 5% or 2% or however many percent it is, that is a disservice to your team as a whole. The focus needs to be, when you are thinking about your commitments, on focusing on the whole team, and then we can deal with these outliers. And sometimes the outliers start to adjust themselves when they realize that they're not getting all the attention anymore, and maybe they should try to get on the train, because and in some cases, if we're talking about meaningful behavior, some of these actions are attention-seeking behavior. These are young people who used to seek attention, and now they've become adults who seek attention. And for whatever reason, they think that this is one way for them to get it. And so regardless of what it is, and you having the time to analyze why people act the way they act, again, another conversation for another day, we have to stay focused on the main thing, because again, our commitment is what should be at the forefront of what we do. Your commitment leads your leadership. You are driven by your commitments, and you staying focused on what those commitments are and constantly reevaluating them to see if they are properly aligned with your who you are as a person, is so important to your ability to be a good leader. As always, I admonish you to take some time to really reflect on what you want to see on a regular basis, who you want to be, and how you want to show up each and every day as a leader. Again, I am ChèRee Wiley, founder and CEO of Diverse Perspectives, consulting and writing services. I would love to partner with you if you want to have a consultation, or to just spend some time kind of talking through any of these topics as we're moving forward, or something that we've covered in the past. Please do not hesitate to reach out. The website is at the bottom of the screen. If you are watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell so every time that we drop a new episode, you are in the know. We only have a few more episodes for this year, for season 1. And so I am so thankful to you for you just showing up, for you spending the time with me to learn and grow as you continue on this leadership journey. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you.